All right, here we go. Can you hear me? I had been charged with developing for Mecklenburg County Public Schools a school activity fund manual. And just to give you an overview, the Virginia Board of Education defines school activity funds as all funds received from extracurricular school activities such as entertainment, athletic contests, cafeteria, club dues, etc., and from any and all activities of the school involving personnel, students, or property. The local school boards are given the administrative responsibility for this fund. The next slide goes to the Mecklenburg County Public Schools Policy 3-3.11, which governs school activity funds. There is an accompanying regulation to this that states that the Mecklenburg County Public Schools Finance Office shall develop and from time to time publish and regularly revise the Mecklenburg County Student Activity Funds Procedure Manual. Such manual shall be distributed to and maintained by each school principal and the finance office. In developing this manual, I used a lot of different information sources. I used the guidelines issued by the Virginia State Department of Education. They were issued in March of 1989, and it's what they're referring to now as the Red Book. Used the policies of the Mecklenburg County School Board, the Virginia Public Procurement Act, the 2012-2013 audit report issued by Creedle, Jones, and Alga, the June 30th, 2013 agreed upon procedures report issued by Brown Edwards, school activity fund manuals from several different Virginia systems, as well as information that I acquired through different breakout sessions at the BASBO, which is an association of school business officials. Just to point out a few of the procedures that we have put in the manual. The first of these is a whistleblower procedure. I have put in section 1 on page 5 of the manual. The whistleblower procedures of Mecklenburg County Public Schools are intended to provide a mechanism for the reporting of illegal activity or the misuse of assets while protecting employees who make such reports from retaliation. And the question becomes, what is questionable conduct? The procedures are designed to address situations in which an employee suspects that another employee has engaged in an illegal act, questionable conduct involving our assets. It could include theft of equipment of cash, could be fraudulent expense reports, misstatements to managers, auditors, any of the above that could be potentially harmful to MCPS. We, as Mecklenburg County Public Schools, we encourage employees to report questionable conduct and has established these procedures to allow them to do so. Just a little overall of the procedures again. Mecklenburg County Public Schools strongly disapproves of and will not tolerate any form of retaliation against those who report concerns in good faith regarding the MCPS operations. Any employee who engages in retaliation will be subject to discipline up to and including termination. The next little section, I'm sorry, I'm not catching up with myself, is on the stipends. The stipends are for the elementary, secondary, athletic, extracurricular coaches. We have put in the policy that all of these coaches will be paid only from central office. All coaches must be approved by the school board on an agenda and have received a contract. Contracts will be considered to be completed when the event or activity has been completed for the year, all equipment, supplies, etc. have been turned in, to the athletic directors or principals. Upon completion of the contracts, the athletic directors, principals will email a list to the supervisor of personnel by the 15th of the month for inclusion in payroll in that month. Any requests that don't meet this criteria will be directed to the Director of Personnel, who will make any decisions, contact with the board, etc., about any extenuating circumstances. The next issue that we wanted to talk a little bit about was the fundraising section. The fundraising is in 3 different sections of the manual, which I feel are important. There's a general procedures section, as well as the accounting policies and procedures. That section deals with cash receipts, how to handle cash. Then also in the manual, there's a section on the duties and responsibilities for administering the funds. And that's really important with the fundraising, that everybody understands what their fiduciary responsibility is ahead of time. So the policy begins that all fundraising activities and projects by the school or any group within or in the name of the school shall not be in conflict with the instructional programs, the overall MCPS mission, education plan, and strategic plan. Such projects shall have the prior approval of the principal, and accountability must be provided for all items purchased for resale in fundraising activities. A few internal control things that I have added to fundraising. The request form is going to now include a bookkeeper's signature, so that after the principal has approved the fundraiser, it will go directly to the bookkeeper, who will sign it, say he or she does have a copy of it and is aware that the fundraiser is taking place, when it's supposed to end, and she will at that time be able to be proactive and ask for reconciliations and closeout reports. We also plan in-service training for principals, bookkeepers, and faculty sponsors to educate them on their responsibilities and in regards to the fundraising. The next section I wanted to talk a little bit about is purchasing. Again, I've pointed out where it is in the manual that's online. And just a blurb, purchases of equipment and services within the school activity fund shall be handled according to the Mecklenburg County Public Schools procurement guidelines. Right now, for the school activity funds, $15,000 to $30,000, all purchases of and contracts for supplies, materials, equipment, or contractual services other than emergency services shall be made in the open market. Legal advertisement is not required. We will be requiring written quotations from vendors when it's practical. If it's not practical to get a written quotation, the principal will at that time contact myself, the financial management specialist. All of the procurement information will be forwarded to me. I will go through it and at that time approve or deny. If the purchase exceeds $30,000, it will immediately be forwarded to the financial management specialist. They will just need to give me details of what they're looking for, different things like that, and then I will go through the procurement process, RFPs, whatever is required for that particular purchase. Whenever possible and practicable, orders shall be aggregated in order to obtain as much purchasing power as possible. An example of this on the school level would be for the aggregation of all the orders for the teachers at the beginning of the year. Right now they're ordering them one at a time. We'll aggregate them on spreadsheets, send out bids, try to get better quotes and prices. Possible aggregation among the division will be investigated by the financial management specialist whenever it's practical to do so. This was added this way to keep the principals from, every time they make a purchase, having to call every other principal in the division to see if they're going over $1,500. Purchases of capital assets after researching, too far, shall be allowed from related fund accounts, the principal's unallocated account, and the general account. Now, examples of related fund accounts would be the purchase of lockers from locker fees that we collect, purchase of a driver's education car from driver education fees that we collect, etc. The unallocated account and the general account are at the discretion of the principal. Again, capital asset purchases shall be made according to the Mecklenburg County Public Schools procurement guidelines and with the approval of the principal and the financial management specialist. Copies of all paid invoices shall be forwarded to financial management specialists to be included in the property and equipment list of NCPS. We've planned or are planning several in-service training sessions to be held with principals and bookkeepers. I will fully be going through the entire manual and try to, again, stress the importance of the fiduciary responsibility. When this training is complete, I am going to ask that all of the teachers and the principals go back and deal with the teacher sponsors and let them know what their fiduciary responsibility is when they take on a fundraising activity. If the funds are not collected by policy, they are owed by the sponsor. Just an additional thing I'm trying to do to help with our internal control somewhat is I'm looking at online software as opposed to the desktop that we're using. There are products available out there that are online in the cloud, so to speak. If we had this type of system, then I would be able to look at all the schools at any time. It would jump right in there. So that's all I have on it. If you have any questions. Yes, sir.
This is a revised policy. Do you have a copy of the old policy that I could compare to the new policy?
The old procedures?
Yes, the procedures manual.
The only thing that I have been able to find, Mr. Edwards, I did dig up a copy of Red Book, and I do have a copy of a work in progress, I believe it is, from 2011.
So we actually didn't have one.
I don't believe so, not that I have found.
I can help answer that a little bit based on, I think right before I came, you paid our attorney to redo all the policies, and that was a process. In the financial policies, it actually states that a manual like this needs to be created by the financial department, and that was never created. Should have been created by our attorney since we paid them $25,000 back then to create all of it. So, and it also says that the finance department should update it every 2 years.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garner.
Mr. Prieur, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Not for you. For you, Mr. Prieur. The information that Ms. Garner used came from a couple of information sources. One of them was Alga and Associates.
Yes, sir.
That is an audit that we paid for, and to this date, it has not been presented to us in public. We're going to have that presented to us in public.
As far as all of us has this information?
No, as far as when I first came on, the auditor presented to the board right there at the podium. Now, this year, it did not happen. So what I'm asking is, can we get the same thing to happen again?
Yes, sir. If we want the board to do it, we can. It's nothing my state law requires it to be done. You have copies of it. It's a public document.
So you're saying we need to do a board vote to get the audit to be presented to us?
I don't know if we actually have to do a vote. I guess we can just do a consensus, or or whatever on it.
Yeah, seeing that we paid whatever amount for it, I think the public should hear it and see it as well.
So we're gonna do the same thing with the Brown and Edwards and have them
Yes.
come and pay them to come also? It should be the will of the board. I don't know the proper procedure. Do we need to vote on it or just a consensus? And so we can do that. We can do that at a special meeting, or we can do it at one of our
Just-
board meetings.
Regular meeting.
I'm sure we will. They don't work for nothing. You know, they don't.
Freedom Zones and Algo will give theirs, I mean, that's part of it.
So, like I said, we can schedule a special meeting, have both of them or whatever.
No,
Doesn't
just
matter.
do a regular meeting, that's fine.
All righty. We'll try to get it as an agenda item. Anyone have any more questions?
Yes, I have another question. You referenced the attorney policy the superintendent did. Our attorney was paid to redo our policy. One of the policy issues that Mr. Edwards brought up was in regards to the 2-year term as the chair. I know Mr. Edwards asked about that as far as when did that policy change. I believe, Mr. Prier, when you became the chair, it was still under the old policy where Ms. Bowman could only do 2 years, and then you assumed chair at that point. So at what point are you aware did the policy change? And was it a board vote, or did the attorney change it, or who exactly changed the policy?
It was in our policy that was, new policy went into effect February the 15th, 2010. Policy 1-3.1 and policy 1-3.2, which states there is not a set term for the holding of chairman or vice chairman. And I think Mr. King did that in accordance with following with our Board of Supervisors, who also does that. And to clarify something for you, Mr. Edwards, on that same note, on January 17, 2012, which was my 3rd or 4th term, you actually made the motion for me to be chairman.
And I've made a mistake.
All righty.
I would like to have our attorney be present at this meeting in March so I could ask him some questions. I've asked on several occasions to have the authority or be able to, as an elected official, to be able to talk to the school board attorney. I've been turned down since we set it's not a policy, but we set a criteria that we go through the chairman to talk to the school board attorney. I have legal questions I want to ask, but it never seems I can get a real answer or the right answer. I'd like him to sit right over here at the next meeting so I can ask him these questions. If not, I mean, if this board doesn't want to do it, I can go through the Commonwealth Attorney or whatever I need to do to get it done. But being elected, I think, when we ask for something and it's continuously not done, it kind of deprives the public of why I'm here. And so I would like to ask that this school board attorney be at that March meeting so that I can ask some of the legal questions that I would like to ask. And they're things that the public should know. It's nothing we're trying to hide. I just don't like doing things in executive session that should be brought out in public. Can we do that on our agenda also?
Yes, sir. If it's the will of the board, we will. If we want to
Well,
encumber
if
that
it's not the
that
will of the
expense.
board, I can go through the Commonwealth Attorney. I've already checked. I can get it one way or the other.
All
But
right.
it's more embarrassing if I do it that way.
Okay, well, if you have any questions you'd like to specifically get answered, I'll be glad to go with you to answer them, if you need be.
Well, I
Or
did
however-
ask one time, and we came back with the wrong answer, and so I don't really have any faith in what you come back and tell me. That's the reason I'd rather have that man sitting right over there so I can answer. I mean, I would even go as far as making a motion to have a vote of no confidence in my school board chairman. And I'll make
Okay.
that motion see if I can get a second.
All right,
I'll second.
all right. Well, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Is there any discussion? We're just going to get this out of the way right now.
Well, maybe
So-
I just need answers when I ask.
Is there any discussion? Not, and call for the vote.
Well, when I ask for something, and it's ignored time and time again, and then when the answer comes back, and the reference is made that an attorney said something, and when I ask an attorney that question in a closed session situation, and he basically said, no, he didn't say it, then I lose confidence in what's going on with this board and the leadership of the board, and I think that I should bring that out in public because I'm a public servant. So that's just where I am. So you can, if there's no more discussion, we can call for the vote.
Any further discussion?
Yes. I think part of the discussion should be similar to what I asked about the policy being changed. I've asked specifically, were you aware that the policy was going to be changed?
No, sir.
You weren't?
No, sir.
Okay. And the only reason I asked it, I think by the time you were up for your second term, you may have been asked who's going to be the next chair because your 2-year term was up. And your answer may have been, we've worked it out. So I'm just curious as to the working out, whether or not you knew that it was going to change or not.
I really don't know what you're asking there, Mr. Sturflin, but I do know we asked our attorney to work on our policies, and that's what he did.
Okay. I don't have anything further.
All righty.
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, because we're talking about confidence and people doing their job, as school board members, your number one job is to read the policies that are presented by our attorney, study those policies, come back, ask questions of the superintendent and that attorney before you vote on that policy. And it does scare me as a taxpaying citizen of this county as well, if you're asking when the policies change and you're not aware that they change. And your number one job as a school board member is to know policy, read policy, and enforce policy. And you don't know when it was passed. Someone's not doing their job.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well,
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think the policy was changed, possibly changed, myself and Mrs. Garner first year coming on. I'm not sure. That's why I would like to get some answers on it. And to say that school board members' responsibility is to read the policies, you're correct. School board members are the ones to direct all decisions on this board. I thank you for clarifying that for the public. But we need to address issues, and I think it's just one way of doing it. The answer was asked, when was it changed? No one was given an answer.
Just gave you an answer, didn't it?
New policy went into effect February 15, 2010.
Well, the question I asked whether or not it was up for a board vote to change a policy.
We cannot change policy unless the board vote on it.
So if there's a policy, the board has to vote to do away with the policy entirely.
And the board did vote to change policy.
We voted to accept the policy manual as written. Now, when you take, I'll bring the public a policy manual, an old policy manual, and show them what it looks like. It looks like 3 Sears and Roebuck catalogs back to back. It's about this thick. And we have since stopped printing it, and we've gone to online. So if anybody would like to go online and read the policy manual, take a day or two off from work, and you can do that. Now, when we used to, I've been on the school board for 10 years, and I'll be on it 2 more unless something happens. But we used to, the man would walk up to that desk, and he would read the old policy, and he would read the new policy and tell us the difference in what was being changed. When we made this blanket policy revision, we never looked at the old policy, so it's very easy to miss something in the policy manual. And I'm sure that as we go along in the next year or so, we're going to find that there are more items that were left out of this policy other than just the 2-year moratorium we put on a chairman. And that was done back in 2006. That's when we did that. But there's probably, I'm sure if I sat here and asked some of these people some of the policies, there's people on this board that don't know either because they hadn't read it.
I'll call for the question for the vote.
I would like to say one thing before we vote. When we do the revisions,
Call for the question.
We got to vote. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All All opposed? 4-3, Ms. Shuttleworth.
Can I make one statement?
You want to wait till board member remarks?
Well, I just wanted to say that when we get the revisions, the differences are highlighted. So whenever there's a change, it's highlighted in the policy, so you can see the changes that way. Just want to let you know.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's good, so when we look back at it, we'll show a deleted policy highlighted.
So
That's
you,
all- that's
so
all
you
I'm
knew
saying.
that they changed that?
Yeah, let's move on to subject F. Our first read, our revision to another policy, 2.2-2.3, distribution of materials.
Good
Dr.
evening,
Thornton.
school board members, chairman, Dr. Thornton. This is the first read of policy 2-2.3, which was revised by our school board lawyer, Brad King. Specifically, policy 2-2.3, advertising/sales/solicitation. It is in your board document, so you can review that. I'm going to read the revised policy. This is distribution of outside communications/materials. A, any non-school group, organization, corporation, individual, club, or association that wishes to distribute any non-curricular printed material may do so once each semester, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, all proposed printed material must be submitted to the superintendent or his designee no later than 7 working days prior to the requested time of distribution. 2, if the superintendent or his designee does not respond to the request within 4 working days of receipt of the request is deemed approved. 3, the superintendent or his designee shall state in writing the reasons under Section B of this policy for any denial of a request to distribute printed materials to students. 4, if a request is approved, the material may be distributed to students at a table provided by Mecklenburg County Public Schools, either immediately outside or inside the cafeteria entryway, at the option of the distributing party and coordinated with the principal of the school. The approved material shall not be distributed from any other location. The table shall have a sign with the following text prominently featured, quote, "The free materials on this table are offered by blank name of distributing party. These materials are not authored or endorsed by Mecklenburg County Public Schools," end quote. 5, if a request is approved, the material may be distributed before and after school day and during lunchtime at the option of the distributing party. Approved material shall not be distributed at any other times. 6, no student may in any way be compelled or coerced to accept any materials being distributed by any person distributing such materials or by any school official. 7, no school official, staff member, or employee of MCPS may apply to distribute printed material under this policy, nor may any school official, staff member, or employee of MCPS in any way participate with any person or group in the distribution of printed material that have been approved for distribution under this policy. Nothing in this policy shall in any way be applied to prohibit the distribution of materials that are part of the MCPS curriculum. 8, notwithstanding paragraph 7 above, approved one-page materials of governmental or nonprofit community organizations offered programs, classes, and/or activities to MCPS students and consisting solely of notices, program descriptions, and/or registration forms may also be distributed at the option of the distributing party via classroom distribution by MCPS staff directly to elementary school students for take-home or via placement in a literature rack or other central distribution point for middle and high school students. Such materials must include the following disclaimer printed in at least 10-point font size, quote, "These materials are not sponsored, authored, or endorsed by Mecklenburg County Public Schools," end quote. B, all requests to distribute non-curricular printed material shall be approved unless the material, number 1, is libelous, invades the privacy of others, infringes on copyright, or is in any way prohibited by state or federal law. 2, is obscene, pornographic, or lewd, vulgar, or indecent. 3, primarily consists in advertisements for sale or solicitations for business. 4, endorses a particular candidate for public office other than a candidate for student elective office. 5 promotes alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or other illegal activity. 6 is likely to cause substantial disruption to the school and its activities, or likely to materially interfere with the proper and orderly operation of the school and its activities. C, this policy shall not apply to students who may wish to distribute printed material to fellow students. D, consideration of the viewpoint espoused by the material is not permitted. E, non-profit Mecklenburg community organizations must provide documentation verifying nonprofit status to the school. This documentation must either be a copy of the letter from the Internal Revenue Service stating the organization is considered tax exempt under Section 501c3, or a copy of a notarized letter on the organization's letterhead stating that the organization is a nonprofit organization. Again, this is a first review. If you have any questions, please contact me with your question. Thank you.
To give some background on this, this topic came up, and our attorney recommendation in the current policy and his recommendation right now is no access for any group. That includes religious groups, that includes atheists, that includes Dixie Youth Sports, the YMCA, or any other organization that exists in our community. So there would be no distribution for any of those, means no access. An open forum means if you allow one organization to distribute materials, you allow all organizations, according to these guidelines that Ms. Pitter just read. Upon some of the concerns and the letters that went out, did have citizens contact me about Liberty Counsel and other organizations and other avenues to pursue, other attorneys and resources that deal with this. This policy came from Liberty Counsel's attorney. It then went through our attorney and scrutinized it, and he said, if you're going to do open access, then this policy he reviewed and is constitutional. So that's where we're at. It's access for all or no access in our schools.
Any board members have any questions? I'm sure you might have some. If not, we're not voting on this tonight anyway. We're just presenting this for our first read.
I have a question, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This will cover Dixie Youth and YMCA will also be, they're not excluded?
If we do no access, then they're excluded. It's any non-school, I'm sorry, any non-school group, organization, corporation, individual club that wishes to distribute any non-curricular printed materials. So that's not curriculum to advertise for Dixie Youth. It's not curriculum to advertise for the YMCA. YMCA may want to put pamphlets out for our teachers to come do an exercise class. That's not part of our curriculum. That's not part of our school job to do that. We can choose to do that and lay those materials out and let our children and adults have access to them through our schools. But if you open it for one, you open it for all. You don't get to pick and choose.
And these materials will be brought in by outside groups, or will the school actually have to lay them out, put them at certain locations?
No, the policy dictates where they can bring them in and put them down.
Okay.
And when.
I'd like to make sure that I know there are people signed up to speak on this issue tonight, that they do have the website of one of the correspondence that we got, that you may go on that website and see some of the things that can come into our school system, you know, with voting to let everybody do it. I think you need to see that. I don't know if any of you know about it or you've looked at it yet, but I think you really need to look at that because we're not making a decision tonight, but I think, you know, you're not informed about things that we've already seen.
Any further questions before we go to public input? Ms. Shuttleworth? Hold on just a second. Let me read her statement here. But we do have people signed up, I'm pretty sure. At this time, matters may be publicly brought to the attention of the board and administration. Public comments at board meetings are just one of many avenues for communication, and the board recognizes and appreciates the importance of input from and communication with the public we represent. The public is invited to sign up to speak prior to the beginning of the meeting. The clerk of the school board will write down your name, address, and the topic that you wish to speak about. The public is allowed up to 6 minutes in most meetings to express their views. Please respect that time limitation. It will be enforced. Please understand that it will not be possible to immediately respond to questions. As a reminder, it is inappropriate in public meetings to make personal attacks, to be defamatory, or to disparage individuals or identifiable groups. Again, we welcome and appreciate your input. Prior to beginning your comment, please state your name to the board, and audience, please refrain from any applause, please. Okay, Ms. Shuttleworth. Yes, ma'am, I don't. Good evening, ma'am, and you will have 6 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Seat, and I live in Chase City. And I would like to start out by saying that I am a Catholic Christian, and my son attends public school in Mecklenburg County. I would like to address the current issue of passive distribution of religious materials in our school, which was in this letter that was sent home. In my research, board members and school administrators are required to allow personal acts of religious faith, for example, like shirts, neckwear, bracelets, and personal individual prayer before a meal, but to simultaneously avoid any appearance that any religion, non-religion, or atheist enjoys special status. Therefore, there should be no religious, non-religious, or atheist books or articles allowed at the schools for the children to pick up and read or take home. Our children, as United States citizens that attend public schools, have the right to be free from religious, non-religious, or atheist coercion. There's a little confusion that I have now, because for communications that I received, this was a religious thing. Now it appears it's turning into Boy Scouts and YMCA, and that's not what I was under the, that wasn't communicated to me. It was strictly a religious thing. And I feel that once you start letting one religion in, then everybody else is going to feel that they can put their things in, and it just confuses our children. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. You know, we as parents are going to teach our children, well, our beliefs at home. Like, I'm Catholic. I'm going to teach my children my Catholic faith at home. That's my decision. But when you come to a public school that's not a particular faith, there shouldn't be anything in the schools that the children can pick up and read that a parent doesn't approve of. How do we know that, we're not in the school with the kids, so how do we know if it's available to them, they're not picking up and reading it? So that's how I feel. And I feel that needs to be taken into consideration. And it needs to be clear to us what this whole thing is about, because I sat back there and I was just totally confused about what was being said now, because it was my understanding it was just religious. And this freedom from religion, people coming in to put their things in. So I'm left confused right now. And I was afraid, I was really nervous to come up here because what I had stated in here didn't make any sense anymore. So thank you.
I don't know where to respond.
Go ahead and respond.
Yeah. Just to respond with some of the confusion, it started as a religious thing because the mention of the Bibles and this group, Freedom from Religion, saw that in the newspapers and clung to that. So that's how it started. But then when you have to address the whole issue, that's where you have the open and the closed. you're open for all organizations to put it in one location, or you're closed to all organizations. That's could be why the confusion started.
Ms. Shuttleworth?
Members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Valerie Sadowski. I reside in Chase City. I am a Catholic Christian, and my son, Stephen, attends Bluestone High School. I must say I almost didn't come up here as well because I was left confused, and my whole paper is scratched out from everything I had to say. So because of the letter that came home that this was a religious issue, and it is my opinion that materials that either advance or inhibit religion should not be allowed in schools. I'm very concerned about what's coming to our children in society, much less our schools. And this is where all of this came for me, because I think our kids are constantly under attack, and there's no telling what's going to come in now, what they're going to be able to pick up, and I think it's dangerous for them. You know, there's a lot of kids that are being taught their religion at home, which is where it should stem from anyway, not in the public square. However, I think that there are a lot of children that aren't being taught anything, and those children are at risk. So if we start bringing materials into the school and allowing God knows what to come in from different groups, where does that leave the children that are at risk, that are confused, that don't have any guidance at home, that are going to be picking up these materials and not knowing what to do with them? And there's no one to help them to know what to do with them. I think it poses an extreme danger to our kids, and I think it's irresponsible on our parts to allow it to happen. And it's unfortunate if it's going to affect Boy Scouts, Dixie Youth, but everyone knows about those organizations. They don't have to be in the school. I don't think it's required, you know. It's up to us as parents to open the doors for these opportunities for our children, but it's up to the schools to teach our children, protect our children, and provide materials for our children that aren't dangerous for them to see and get into. I think that's our job. I think that's your job. I think that's the school's job, and that's what we entrust you with. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board,
sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My hat is off to you, no doubt. My name is Randy Basie. I'm the pastor of Fields, Ephesus, and Friendship United Methodist Churches. Fields, which is only 5 miles up the road here, to Ephesus, which is behind Bowman's Garage on Trodden Ridge, and at Friendship, which is only 2 miles out of Chase City. You have a difficult job ahead of you, and it's a difficult task. It's not easy. My hat is off to you, because the separation of church and state is a difficult decision. You know, the thing that was very much set into place to protect us, those of us who was passive, well, others come in and want to dictate to us. But I urge you to keep God's word, his Bible, in the school. And I base it on these reasons, that characterization is changing in our culture. As you know, violence is growing more in our society. Our students are walking into schools with weapons. They're killing other students and teachers across the nation. Students are dealing with bullying and sexuality. Students are contemplating suicide. Some have succeeded. Students are being faced with drugs and a drug culture, so they don't know how to face life. And not to mention the pressures that you guys are faced with. The long hours here together and the things that you have to do and leading our educators. So I urge you to keep God's Word, His Bible, in the school. See, unlike most, I see where God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit is not a religion, but it's a way of life. And I know that the laws that have been written, they tie your hands. They make it difficult to make decisions. But I would ask you to allow God to lead you to keep His Word in our schools. And if there's any way that I can help, I offer my services. In any way that I can, the way God has touched my life to lead and help in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, ma'am, how you doing?
My name is Brandy Luna. I reside in Buffalo Junction, and my children attend Clarksville Elementary. It's a touchy subject, this one. But as the sign beside you and behind you says, it is a county public school. It's not a Christian academy, and as such, it's not the teacher's place, it's not the school's place to teach children about Bible topics or any such materials. This is something that should be taken care of at home by the parents, by their pastors, preachers, whatever have you, in regards to their specific religion. It's unfortunate that, well, Boy Scouts and all that stuff is now being affected, but in the long run, I feel like it's the parents' duty. It's the parents' duty to provide this stuff for their children. And it's the parents' duty to make sure that their children grow up in the specific manner that is meant to be for them. My children know God. My children love God. They read the Bible with me. We are God-fearing people. But that's, like I said, my job. It's mine and my husband's job to instill these things in my children. If other parents choose to not do so, that's on them. I do not think it should be something that the school should be responsible for or even allow. So y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Shuttleworth? That's everyone. Was anyone else here that wanted to speak that did not get a chance to sign up for public input? All righty, we thank you for all your comments.
We do hope to get more feedback over the next month on this issue, because we really do need to hear from the majority of the people. And please feel free to call and ask and educate yourself. It is a complicated issue, and I'm glad some people came forward even though they were a little confused. Thank you. But just to clarify some more while we're here, this is passive distribution, which means no one is allowed to teach any of this. Just so that you understand, it's located in one area. They can choose to pick it up. No employee of the school can encourage it, can say, hey, go pick up your Bible. No one can say, hey, go pick up the Dixie Youth fundraiser. We can't encourage any of it. It's just there, and it's their choosing. If that does happen, those organizations will not be allowed to be in the schools. So if a member brings it in and does encourage it in any way, they won't be allowed in the future. Just to clarify what it is.
Dr. Thornton,
Yes, sir.
this policy here talks about the policy should not apply to students who may wish to distribute printed materials to fellow students. if those students wish to distribute Boy Scout material or Dixie Youth or YMCA material, they're going to be exempt from any policy, correct?
The way that's written, correct?
Okay.
So a child can bring a box of Bibles to school and pass them out as long as we can't do anything about it.
We'll have to get clarification.
Okay, I just thought.
I'm not answering that without clarification.
I thought I'd check.
Is there any further discussion? Like I said, this will be on our agenda next month for action. Move on to item 9. Our minutes from our December 16, 2013 regular meeting. Have a motion, the school board approves the minutes of the regular school board meeting held on December 16, 2013. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, unless there's any discussion? Those in favor? None opposed? Move on to B, minutes from our January 30th, 2014 organizational revised regular meeting. The motion, the school board approves the minutes from the January 30th, 2014 organizational revised regular meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? None opposed, Ms. Shuttleworth? Move on to payment of the bills. Have a motion, the school board approves the bills.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Garner, I think you looked over them.
Yes, I had several questions, and Ms. Garner was very patient with me today and answered everything that I needed answered. So I thank her for her patience.
What were your questions? Maybe I won't have any. Oh, you got notes?
I have to take notes, I'm old. All right, I questioned the payment to Brown Edwards, and she explained that the digital insurance benefits in the actuarial evaluation. And if you understand anything about insurance, she did a real good job. I understand why we paid that much. Maintenance, after I got the printed copy, I could see what the consultants were on our board docs. It doesn't show, but I understood what that was for. I questioned Robert Tucker's reimbursement, and that was for a conference that he attended. Under federal, it was a payment, but I found that that was through the Century 21 for supplies that they use for the after-school program. And then two payments of over $1,000 each for instructors, and that's for the improvements of our school. And she explained, I asked her to explain about the money that we got from the SVCC, and she explained her process of what she had to do that too. So I do thank her for all the work she did today.
Under technology, diversified services, we got 2 checks in there for $5,400. What is diversified services?
That is the consulting that Ralph Mullins is doing for the civil rights. There are several things listed on the invoice. We had paid him through November, and so we paid December and January to get him caught up.
He was continuing to work on the safety grant. He is done at the end of this month.
I just didn't know what it was.
Any further questions on the bills? All righty. You got some?
No, it's tough.
Okay. All righty. All those in favor, payment of the bills? All opposed?
Stay.
Get that, Ms. Shuttleworth? Move on to personnel agenda. Have a motion, the school board approves the personnel recommendations.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Abstain.
Abstain? All opposed? None opposed, Ms. Shuttleworth, 2 abstain. Move on to student matter RE 2013-2014-05. Have a motion, the school board approves the student matter RE 2013-2014-05.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? None opposed, Ms. Shuttleworth. Student matter SD 2013-2014-04. Have a motion, school board approves the discipline committee recommendations for student matter SD 2013-2014-04.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? None opposed, Ms. Shuttleworth. Student matter SD 2013-2014-05. Motion, school board approves the recommendation for student matter 2013-2014-05.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? None opposed, Ms. Shuttleworth. Have a motion to suspend policy for the Bluestone High School Beta overnight field trip. Have a motion, school board approves to suspend policy 1-5.4, which allows a vote to take place on the same night as information held in order to vote on approving the Bluestone High School Beta Club overnight field trip.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? Hear none. All those in favor? All opposed? One opposed, Ms. Shuttleworth. We're going to move on to We're going to move on to have a motion, school board approves the Bluestone High School Beta Club overnight field trip to Richmond on March 17th through March 23rd.
So moved.
Have a motion and second. Is there any discussion?
I'm just glad we had the flexibility to allow this vote, so the transportation department will have enough time to plan for it.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All opposed?
Abstain.
One abstain, Ms. Shuttleworth. A gifted advisory committee members list. Have a motion, the school board approves the gifted advisory committee members list.
So moved.
Have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Abstain.
All opposed?
I'm in.
One abstain, Ms. Shuttleworth. Move on to subject K, a request for funding for studies for the program of new school. Motion, school board approves to allow Dr. Thornton to request funding for the architects and engineers to conduct a land study and a preliminary study on the programming of the new school.
So moved.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, I'm sure we will. All righty, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We voted on putting it on the agenda. Is what we voted on previously. In November, I think. Or December, whenever.
Yeah, I'm all for a new school and a new location. I'm just not going at it this way. We've already been this route one time before. I'm just not for that. In fact, I already know that one of the things the land is we put our hands on, we wouldn't have to advertise and pay $1 million up for it. It's a lot of homework we can do. We just get out here and do it by yourself. It's a small county. A lot of people want to start a high school. They don't know how to land. Also pay $250,000 for somebody from outside to come in and look for it. I don't know where it is. That's all I got.
Can you clarify exactly what this study is for? Because it's not just finding land.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
One of the aspects is it's not their job to locate and find the land. It's to come study the pieces of land that meet the acreage requirement, and I believe it's around 150 acres for, if you look at the amount of students and program from past people's studies. It's then engineering experts that come in and analyze the land to see if the land will perk, to see if there's enough rolling terrain in the land. There's all kinds of things that they are trained experts in to decide if you can actually build a school on that property and it's functional and wise to, because all of those factors could increase the actual cost. You could get a very cheap piece of land for $400,000 and then spend $1 million to get it prepared for the school. You could spend $1 million for a piece of land and spend very little to nothing to get the land ready. The other parts of the study, which, when we talk about studies, is two different things, and I'm glad you asked that question. There's been studies since 1994 in this county with all different county residents on it. Those are studies to decide what we need to do. Do we need to build a consolidated school? Do we need 2 separate schools? Do we need to close the school? And all those things were covered in all those studies, including DOE and their recommendations. What this county has yet to do, and if we continue not to do it, those who don't want the new school will make sure we don't get a new school. What we haven't done is what all these other counties, like we just saw, did. They went out and they paid the A&E fees, the architect fees, and the professional fees, and they brought those people in, and they met with board members, they met with community members, they met with business people, they met with parents, they met with students, and they had discussions for months about what do you want your school to look like? What do you want in your school? Because it's different things. In our county, it would be a big thing with the band in our schools. It may not be a big thing with some other area. But we need to give the professionals what do we value in this county, what we want in our schools. And with that information, they give us a cost. Well, this is going to cost you $70 million. And just like the budget that I presented tonight, then you come back and say, okay, we can't afford $70 million, so let's take out the swimming pool. Maybe we don't need 1,000 student auditorium, maybe we need 500. That is a process that every county goes through that builds new schools. And you travel to see these other schools. Go travel to Wise County and see their spaces. You go travel to Virginia Beach and see their spaces. And without doing all of that travel and without doing all of that research, we don't know what we want. And so we have to do research to decide what you want. Then it's there, you paid for what you want. And that doesn't go away. That the design and the elements you want in a school that you paid for is not throwing money away. It's there for when you move on to build it. And that is why, and I've only seen the study going back to 1994 and 2006 and 2009, and all these studies where people spent a lot of time in this community and probably feel disgusted, and I know some of them do because they told me. Until we research what we want for our children and put it out there and price it, nothing's going to happen. So really, the decision that came down already was to do nothing. You saw how long it takes. We got to do all the research first to decide what we need and then go through the process of deciding how we're going to fund it, and then it's going to take another 18 months to 2 years to build it. So for those who don't want new schools, you're doing a very good job by not asking for an A&E architectural study to be done. Because until that's done, I wouldn't advise this board to buy a piece of land, and I'm a taxpaying citizen too, to buy a piece of land that we don't know will be functional for a school and spend that type of money. Not a wise decision.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Will this company be able to, once they start talking to the community, there's still a strong opinion in the community that we should have 2 schools, even though this board has voted on 1. Will this company be able to, in the money that we're giving them, price out that as well? Or is this company only looking at the design of one consolidated high school, middle school complex? That
would be the direction of this board.
Okay.
if you tell the company that during the conversations with the community that comes out, that what about 2 consolidated high school and middle schools on both ends?
Right.
If we hear that and you direct them to do that, then they can do that.
And that will be.
Could it cost more? I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure it would cost more, because now you're asking them to do 2 things.
Right.
I'm not sure how much.
Because I agree with you. We've done nothing as far as moving forward with our schools. And it may come to the point that it could be a public vote to decide on it, if the opposition is still there with not one consolidation. So we need to do something to sit back and not take that step. We have to take that step. I'm just hoping that what we're paying for, they can give us both. And that way, if our boards can't get together, then maybe at some point, as long as we have that information, the cost, we can maybe put it up for a vote and then go from there. But I think it's important we need to move forward with it. I support the idea, because if we don't continue going, nothing happens.
The only thing I want, what is the education, what is the joint education committee for? Why was that put together? I thought that was to do what you're getting ready to do. I thought y'all were gonna meet. I was on it, but now I was taken off of it, I guess, because I don't agree in strong arming the Board of Supervisors, but I don't know why I was taken off. But it's okay. You have that prerogative. I guess it was because I didn't vote for you for chairman. But
Just scared you don't love me anymore.
you're right. You won that one. But anyway, I just thought that's the reason we had a 3-person committee that was going to meet with their 3-person committee and work on these issues and then come back to this board, and now we're going in a different direction. I'm going to abstain because I just thought we had a direction, and now we're changing.
All right, any further discussion?
Now, I agree with you, Mr. Edwards. I thought the committee was formed to have a relationship with the Board of Supervisors. And from that committee, eventually this should have come from the committee. Be it coming from the committee or coming from us, it has to be done. So what we're voting on is giving you permission to ask the Board of Supervisors to get this company to start on the process. Is that right?
Correct.
And we picked a company, or we just going, do we know who we're going to use?
No, we would do an RFP for that. And I would like to add, to clarify, I believe the committee was formed for that, and I know I was talking to one committee member earlier this evening, and I don't think anyone's strong-arming the Board of Supervisors. I think we're giving information to the Board of Supervisors, to our board, and to the public, which I know is my responsibility, to pursue all avenues. And one thing they've asked is, the committee has asked for a list of all the schools, the things we need to Band-Aid and fix it. And I'm going to be bringing in a consultant that could explain to the community and both boards what those 3 different things are. Because there's one thing, and excuse me, to put lipstick on a pig and replace ceiling tiles and paint some walls. And there's another option of actually gutting all the sewer lines and the whole infrastructure of a building and what that cost would be. And then the third thing of building new buildings. So I think information helps people make wise decisions. And again, this is another part of it. As we research what this school is going to be, we need to know what it's going to cost us and then make decisions. I think it's pretty clear in the public that our buildings are falling apart, and they're built in the 1950s, and we have to do something. And I will give a report by line item from estimates we got, but just from collecting, and I don't have it here in my hand, but it's around $14 million to put lipstick on a pig. And then it's about 60 to 75% of new construction to actually gut a building and get it ready and renovate it. And then there's new construction. And if you've been to any universities or other places who have done it, and I've seen it at Longwood University, to renovate a building, they gut the entire interior of that building. The exterior is still there, but the interior is gutted. That wall may no longer be there. The spaces change, all the sewer, the piping, the infrastructure, the wiring, it's all ripped out and it's all brought up to modern day code. So to do that is like 75%, 60 to 75% of new construction. So I want both boards and the community to understand what all those costs are and make those decisions as we go down this path. But until you have that information, you might as well keep stacking up the little reports, studies that the community has created.
Any further discussion?
And I think that, the longer we wait, the construction cost is down now. And in the next 15 years, it seems the construction cost will be back like it was before. And we need to start now while the construction cost is still low.
Yes, sir. Hearing no further discussion, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Have one abstain, Ms. Shuttleworth. All right, we're going to move on down to our board member remarks. Ms. Sturgeon? Yes, sir.
Yeah. One thing that we have to do, we have to get our schools up to date. It's shameful that our schools are in such a condition. We may disagree on many things you see up here, but I think one thing as a whole, the board agrees. We have to get better school systems, better structures. We may still disagree on the style of teaching, traditional, PBL, and we can work that out later. We have to put our children in better facilities, be it 2 consolidated high school, middle school complexes, or be it 1. We have to do one or the other. Hopefully we can come together as 2 boards and make it happen. If we can't, both boards work for the public. Maybe that will be the final decision if it goes on a ballot and every citizen in the county can vote on it. If it takes that, we need to do it. We're old. We're not going to be in school anymore. So we have to put the money forward and do what's best for the future of our children and the future of this county. I think part of the reason that we haven't moved forward is because as board members, we're not working as hard as we should work. I think as board members, we need to be beating the pavement talking to people. They shouldn't see us just during election time when we're trying to get a ballot form signed. You know, we can't expect something to happen because we sit here and do a public meeting. We have to get out and we have to talk to our individual communities. We need to do the same thing that this group we're trying to hire is going to do. Get out and get an opinion. Speak on behalf of the people in your community. Knock on doors. Talk to people. But if a board member is doing nothing other than showing up to this meeting and sit up here, then they don't need to be board members. And I can't stress that enough. If we as board members, the only thing we do is come to a meeting with our name tag in front of us and expect something to happen, it doesn't happen. A title means nothing. We were elected to do a job, and we're not doing it. And the reason I said we're not doing it because we haven't gotten to that point of construction. When I came on, I said, if we're not breaking ground, I fail. I don't believe in failing. So I challenge my fellow board members to work harder. If you're on a committee, work that committee. If that committee is our committee of schools, contact the board of supervisors. Have lunch, do something. Because just sitting in here at a regular public meeting is not going to get it done. It hasn't gotten done in years. So I challenge my fellow board members, let's get off our behinds and work even harder to make this school a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sturtevant. Ms. Wagstaff?
I'd like to say it was very exciting seeing that school today, seeing some of the buildings in that Kellam High School completed, because we did see it in, I guess, maybe 70% complete. But seeing the actual project-based classrooms was very exciting. And I have been visiting schools since I came on the board in 2007. I guess I'm tired of visiting schools. I'm tired of seeing all the beautiful schools going up all over the state. And ever since I was on the board in 2000, I started immediately making contact with all the Board of Supervisors. The main thing I wanted to find out is if they approved of a consolidated school, because that was the most contentious thing at the time. Do you want a consolidated school or do you want to keep the two schools? I got consensus from one outgoing and several Board of Supervisors that they would support a consolidated school. And like I said, I've been through the public forums we've had committees, I've read all the studies. So I think it has been a continual conversation since 2007. And I am tired of looking at schools, and I want to get a school. And I'm excited, like I said, that we're voting on this tonight, and hope we can just move forward, because this county needs to prioritize our education. That's what does stimulate economic development. And people want to live and work near good schools. They don't care if there's a fancy courthouse or good prisons where they live. That doesn't bring business in. So we need to just get the community together and just move forward.
Ms. Garner? Thank you, Ms. Wagstaff.
I was fortunate enough to go to 2 elementary schools for the ribbon cutting, and Clarksville, I think we'll do yours in July, because every time it's been planned, it's snowed. But we do have 3 new additions, and they look wonderful, and the teachers that are there are very excited about being in the new areas. The next thing, I went to the ball game. The Bluestone High School boys are doing excellent. They play tomorrow night, so please go out and support them. And one other thing that since I was one of the instigators for the Finance Committee, and Mr. Bullock is chairman and I'm not on it, I hope you'll let us know when you have your first meeting, because I would love to attend that meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Smiley? Nothing? Mr. Edwards? All right. Mr. Bullock?
Well, I can say that we do have good teachers in McNair County, and I have visited all the schools in McNair County. When I came on this board, I was one of the first persons to vote on a consolidated high school. And I do talk to the people in the community. I don't sit around just to come here. Matter of fact, a lady called me last week about Bluestone High School with no heat. I said, you're calling the wrong person. Call the Board of Supervisors to get us a new school. You know, I kind of joke with her about that. But my point is that we can talk to the community all we want, but it's up to the Board of Supervisors to give us the money to do that. And we got a lot going on in McNair County, and I'm hoping that before I get off the board or before I retire from the board or whatever, come first, that we break ground on a new school. And I thank the Board of Supervisors for giving us the money to improve the 3 elementary schools. The community is real excited about it at Chase City last week when I went up there. I was surprised to see so many citizens there. The parking lot was filled, and La Crosse, it was full. And the community want to see better conditions for our students. And I want to tell our principals and teachers, continue to do what you're doing, because I'm proud of what you do, and I always brag on McNair County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Ms. Tanner wanted to let everyone know that she had a death in the family, that's why she's not here tonight. I think she was following us on YouTube, but I imagine whatever she was following on, the battery's gone dead on it by now. So, anyway, Mr. Brinkley, I'd like to thank you for being here tonight. I offered the invitation to all the Board of Supervisors. I appreciate you taking your time, but you took a lot of time tonight. Thank you very much. Like I said, we're going to go back into closed session here for a few minutes. We don't have any action listed after that. So I appreciate everyone's attendance. Sorry the meeting ran so long. We'll see y'all next month.